Welcome to the Best Damn Survivor podcast, recorded here on YouTube. I'm Dave.
Hello.
With me, as always, is my brother Drew.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll be talking about this week's episode, "Do or Die."
Do
Now,
or die.
I just want to, before I go into my favorite scenes, my favorite part of the beginning of every Survivor episode, because that's coming up, and it's a doozy.
Yeah.
What do you actually think about the "Do or Die" twist?
It was great. I think really it's the shot in the dark that everyone was hoping for this season, right? And it was almost like I don't think it's exactly like that, but it's kind of it has that like it's the crazy twist that I think, at least for myself and maybe other listeners, viewers, were hoping for. But it was awesome. I loved every second of it. Yes.
Wow.
And I'm gonna be honest. Like I know we talked about the episode earlier before doing this recording, and you and my other brother, and I heard kind of reviews where people were like, "Yeah, the episode's kind of meh." I love this one just as much as all the other episodes this season. I really feel like for me, this is the best. Like I love it. Yeah.
Okay. Hot take from me.
Yeah.
I do not like the "Do or Die" twist. I don't want it to come back.
Okay. So talk about why. What is it about it that bothers you?
I feel like it's I would like there to be more rules around it. Like, how many "Do or Dies" in a season? Is it just whenever the producers decide to shake stuff up, it's a "Do or Die" episode? I'm like, I don't know. I want there to be a little bit more rules behind it. Like, is there only one "Do or Die" twist a season? Is it?
And I respect the safety of like having the rules, but at the same time, isn't the producer's job to make it good? And I felt this was good.
Okay, fair point. So yeah, my favorite scenes when they get back from tribal at night vision. Liana is pissed. Liana is not happy.
Honestly, I was thinking about that a lot this episode. I feel like they kind of, with the editing, they villainized her a little bit, because especially when you look at later in the episode, there were some very human moments, like when she reaches over, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like there's so many shots of her up to this point in the season of her just looking at the ground, being frustrated, and I'm like kind of like, oh man, like, and I just throughout this episode I really had that feeling, like, almost like Coach, the last season I saw him, where I got another look and it was the opposite. I felt like I was kind of given the impression that she was kind of dark, and I don't know that she is now.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of did a bit of a 180 on Liana this episode, sure.
100p. Yeah.
So essentially, Ricard is off the hook for the Shan move, and no one's blaming Ricard. Like, I was kind of surprised by that.
But let's be real. I mean, when he holds up his vote the episode before, and he was like, "We promised one another that we would give each other permission to do this." You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think Ricard's still playing a good game.
So Deshaun has a bit of a plan here at night. He decides to just attack Ricard and just be like, "Why is no one realizing Ricard did this? Hey, everyone, Ricard totally did this. Everyone should be worried." And people are just like, "Whatever, Deshaun, come on."
That's super interesting that you think it was a plan. I like, it came off to me.
Well,
like
he says it. He says it in a talking head.
Oh, okay.
Because the next morning he's like, "My plan was to expose Ricard," and just nothing happened. So I looked like the bad guy.
Oh, maybe I'm a dork. Okay. Yeah, okay. I didn't get it. That happens.
Xander has a really funny talking head where he's like, "Yeah, suddenly, like the next morning, I've got an alliance," and I'm like, "What? I'm controlling the game? What?" After 20 days, he's finally in control. Yeah.
Okay, and I have this to say about that. God damn you, Xander.
I love Xander.
No, like in a loving way, but it was just like, I mean, we've talked about it multiple times, this season, that we really felt like he was going to be a contender.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I guess it almost resonates with me a little bit because it's like I do that where like I'm in a better spot and I don't believe in myself, and I'm like, wow, man, really? Like, and maybe that was just him being happy about like where he's at. But I was like, no, man, you got this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if anybody else felt like that, but yeah, if you did, tell us about it. We want to hear. Like, subscribe, send the love.
So yeah, I mean, the next morning, Deshaun and Ricard essentially talk it out, and Ricard is like, I don't understand Deshaun's game. I don't get why he does what he does. Like, what does he think this is gonna get from him? But then we get to a little bit of a, I'm not gonna, like I did, I got my eyes sweated a little bit for the next part when Danny's talking about his dad.
Dude, I
I was
cried.
like, that was close to a loved one's visit for me.
100%. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it was, yeah,
I
yeah,
really, really like that. Yeah, it's
yeah.
so the only character yet to get a I don't want to say a sob story because I don't want to like undermine Danny's and everyone else's kind of issues, but Xander's the only one that hasn't. We don't have like pictures of young Xander with his parents back at home, or we haven't gotten that yet. He's the only person without like a bit of a backstory.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. Like, privileged white men have taken a front seat for way too long, right?
Fair
Well,
enough.
no,
Fair enough. Yeah.
but let's be real, right? Because that's something that happens in this episode, and we got to talk about it. But yeah, man, he probably should be last for the sob story. Do you know what I mean? Just with, I I have to say, even though like there's been, and we've talked about it and we're going to talk about it more, but even though I've felt that there's times where they're trying a little bit too hard, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to make it super inclusive, I do like it. Like, uh I grew up in a really multicultural city. Like, I have a hard time wrapping my head around why people hate each other, and I think it's like they couldn't not talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it has to be a conversation. It's a couple days away from 2022, like, and it's long overdue for change.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, essentially, then it just goes right to the challenge. What do you
Which was
have
awesome.
you seen this challenge before? What do you think about this one?
Oh gosh, okay. I didn't even, I literally, no, I've never seen this challenge before, and you asking that question makes me think obviously that it's been around before. I liked it a lot. And also I like the twist. I like
Mm-hmm.
the twist. I like going into this. It's like, are you going to participate? Are
Oh,
you not
right.
going to participate? Right.
Yeah.
And man, super rad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because Jeff
yeah,
says, like, well, before the challenge, he does that little talk to the camera thing,
yeah.
which I kind of that I kind of like. But he says you don't have to do this challenge if you don't want to. But the first
It's
one that drops their ball is gonna play a little game called Do or Die at Tribal tonight.
which is like, oh my gosh. And it was really interesting to see what the players did, because some of the people that I thought would have been like, no, I'm good, I don't have to risk it, they did risk it. And some of the players that I thought, would have done the like I was surprised. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, because
man,
Liana and Heather decide to not participate.
yeah, and I was surprised that Xander did. I would have thought that Xander would have thought he was a little bit safer, because he's kind of been flying under the radar as far as
Mm-hmm.
like not really having any conflicts, like no major beefs, like nothing, no drama. He's just kind of been around,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it was just interesting to see like what the players thought in their heads as far as like, um, whether they see themselves as a target, right? And also, I really like the lead up to this challenge, the little sidebar with Jeff where he breaks the fourth wall and he's just talking to you directly. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, cool, man. Yeah, yeah. I'm hanging out with Jeff. Let's do this. You know what I mean?
My
Just
favorite one of those so far this season is when he hides the idol right on camera. I'm like, that's
yep,
cool. I've never seen an idol actually hidden on camera before. That was kind of fun.
100%. Yeah.
So Deshaun is the first one out, almost
Hmm.
immediately, 5 seconds in. So he has to play the do or die game.
I think it
Now,
was like three.
hmm?
I think it was like three. It was like,
Oh,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
Jeff being like shortest ever in Survivor history, out right away,
yeah.
and I was like, oh, sorry, bro. Yeah.
So, did you catch the Rebus puzzle here, the game within a game?
Oh, $1 million mistake,
Ah, there it is, $1 million
dude.
mistake.
Dude, this is the quickest one I got all season, and I was like,
As soon as I figured
million
out that was a mill, it was all over.
dollar.
Yeah.
And then it was like the mist. The mist took me like half a second, and then I was like, oh my god, Dave's gonna be so impressed. I got it. I got it right away.
You probably got it faster than me. It took me forever to figure out that that was a mill. Took me forever.
All season, man, I've been like, oh man, I'm letting Dave down. Okay, you're better than this. You're better than this. Go.
So, who fights it out at the end? It's essentially what Danny, Xander, and Ricard, essentially your three challenge beasts going at it. Ricard and
Dude,
Xander almost drop him at the same time.
I
Close.
almost, yes, which was crazy. The finish was crazy.
I almost
The
thought
one thing,
Xander dropped on purpose because he thought Danny wasn't in it anymore. That's kind of was my first impression. I was like, oh, did Xander not like? Did he think he was
honestly,
safe?
like honestly, the end of this challenge, just like in the last couple, it just the confidence, like when the camera pans, and all three of them are just so like, and I'm like, and I know that like Ricard and Danny are a little bit more dressed than Xander, but man, Xander's a pretty big clue that like they're all getting pretty gaunt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm like, oh, that it's yeah, man. And the commentary on this one from Jeff, like I almost like it when it gets down to a small heat, you know, in a challenge,
Mhm.
and and at first Jeff's like critical, like early challenge, he's like, you gotta push, come on, that's how you do it, you know what I mean? And then it
Mhm.
gets down to the end, and he's like egging them on. He's like, okay, just breathe, focus, you got this, all you gotta do,
Yeah,
right? And I'm like, oh my god, yes, yes, like it's
yeah. If you lose
it's
focus for even 1 second, your chance at immunity is like the way he narrates it pretty
right, right.
soft spoken. Yeah. So Danny
I feel like
wins. Yeah.
was Jeff ever like a sports announcer in a past life, like before he started
No,
Survivor? Because I feel like okay, because I feel
he
like
had a
he would
daytime
be.
talk show for a little bit, but
I feel like he would be freaking amazing for hockey. Just saying.
he kind of didn't do much. This was like kind of his first gig was Survivor. Yeah.
He's so good at it. Props, Jeff. If you ever see this,
So
hear
Danny
it.
wins. I was so happy for Danny when he just collapses. I was like,
Oh my
good for you,
gosh!
buddy. Good for you.
Right?
Yeah, it's good.
Um, man, Danny is he comes across as such a nice guy, and again, it could be the editing, but he doesn't seem like he has a mean bone in his body, and he's
Mm,
playing the game, and there's something about that I love. I'm just like, I would be so happy for that guy if he won the season.
mhm.
100%, man. Yeah.
So commercial break, I guess. I yeah, I write them in now because I'm watching it live. Just if anyone wants to know kind of where I should start writing end times. So we come back, and everyone comes back to camp, and I like how everyone's like, "Hey, Deshaun, first ever, you're gonna make history," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm okay with it." And I'm like, "Oh, you're just lying to yourself, Deshaun. You're just." Deshaun's face when he got eliminated and had to do that do or die. He was a sad panda. So he comes back to camp and tries to make himself feel better about possibly getting
Yeah.
eliminated. I like the line where he's like, "Hey, if I die tonight, then at least none of y'all voted for me. I can leave the game without getting any votes." Yeah, fair enough.
I mean,
Put
honestly,
whatever
if
positive spin you want on it, Deshaun. Whatever positive spin you want.
well, yeah, but I mean, I can get that. I mean, if you could go like, isn't that like shades of Brandon, where it's like I'm going out on my own terms? Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
A little bit of that, which I respect.
sure. So essentially, it kind of comes down to, well, the way it's edited, it comes down to Erica has two plans. She's talking about Ricard or Liana. Liana's the easy vote. They already have the numbers. They're in the majority alliance. Let's just get out Liana. But then Xander and Erica are like, when are we going to get another chance to take out Ricard? Because he can win an immunity challenge every now and then. So this might be our only shot. I don't know. They both had like valid arguments. I don't know if I would. I always tell myself when I'm watching the show, just make the easy vote. But there are times that I bet you when you're on the island that you're like, no, it's big threat time. It's time to take out one of the big dogs.
Oh, obviously, I can't even.
Like the way people are thinking, like as soon as Erica goes, yeah, let's just, we could get out Liana, and I think Xander's like, why? She has no resume. So it's like keep all the useless people in and make sure you're the only big dog left in the yard. It seems to be the strategy this year.
It's interesting because, like, when you say that, I could see how maybe players on the island would think that she has no resume, but I mean, as viewers, we all know that she has one. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's not like the woman's got no FaceTime this season. Do you know what I mean? Like,
true, but I don't know what she's actually like done, right? Like,
well, I mean, she took a risk, got a crazy advantage that I'm still upset that it didn't go off. Xander faked her out, but I mean, are you trying to tell me she hasn't made moves? No, you can't say that.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe they've edited them out, but I don't know. She was unable to get get out Xander. She screwed up and accidentally gets Shan voted out by spilling the beans. Like I think she's made a lot of mistakes this season and not a lot of like good moves.
Sure, but I feel like the conversation started with like, is she a wallflower or not? And all I'm saying is she's not a wallflower. Do you know what I mean? Sure, she hasn't, not everything has gone her way, but is she a player? Absolutely. 100% a strong player. Like, I don't know, like out of 10, I'd give her an 8. I feel like they edited in, some really just stressful looks from her all the time in like these weird kind of scenes. But yeah, like she's going hard in the paint, as they say.
fair point. Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially most of this show, they go to tribal council pretty much halfway into the episode. This episode is one of those, I think they did one earlier, I can't remember which episode it was, 5 or 6, where it was mostly a tribe. Oh, the 2 tribal council one. That was like half the episode was just the 2 tribals.
Yeah.
So essentially, I was
surprised you didn't message me and be like, oh my gosh, longest tribal ever. Like, did this episode set a record for that? Because I feel like
I bet you there's been longer. I think there's been multiple like double elimination nights and stuff like that.
Sure.
Final tribals are always stupid long.
Yeah.
So let's see, where does it start with? Oh yeah. Okay, so Erica says she has a love-hate relationship with the game of Survivor. She's like, some days I hate it, some days I love it. Today's I hate day. And Jeff's like, very good answer.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And yes. And yeah. All the yeses.
Yeah, some days you're like, wow, Survivor. And other days you're like, God damn it, Survivor. God damn you.
Well, but that's the nature of it, right? Because it's like you're with all these people, you're starving, you're trying to survive, you're like, am I gonna sleep okay? Probably not. Am I gonna be hungry, right? And you're literally, it's like all being like survivors of a tragic accident together. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, you're like, well, we're gonna eat one of you today. It's gonna be somebody. So sorry, not sorry.
Sorry,
not
sorry.
It's the beauty of like, I don't. Who is the actual human being that came up with this? And did they win a Nobel Prize?
What's his name? Mark Burnett, I think, is the creator.
Yeah. Like the premise is genius.
It's so simple, right? Yeah. Now, but here's something that I didn't notice. Jeff said it's the last night you can play your shot in the dark. It's one of those things that I completely forgot about the shot in the dark. It's never been a real thing.
Well, and also that's why what happens with Deshaun this episode is so awesome, because I feel like that's what we wanted to see with the shot in the dark. I remember you and I talking about it earlier this season, and you're like, yeah, if the shot in the dark doesn't go off, I don't want it to come back. I don't like, I
Yep.
want it gone. And
Stand
I'm
by it.
like,
Yep.
and I'm like, okay, and that's fair, but isn't that kind of like, it's a lot of pressure. Like I I I still think it's super awesome. I love that, because like we talked about, especially like the first person that gets voted out any season, there's part of me in my brain that goes, this is so arbitrary and BS. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
the idea that somebody could like, no, we're gonna roll the dice. Maybe you can't get me out. Um, I love, like, I love it to bits, and so yeah, I want to see the shot in the dark back. I'm sorry that it didn't make you happy, but
Fair
you know,
enough. Yep. I mean, there's plenty of things they've added and have never come back and have stuck around. So, and most of them I like. Certain, I've got some hot takes on some other things, advantages they've done in the past.
yep,
I don't mind the three phrase one. I just think the three phrases need to be different. But
they need to be sneakier. They
yeah,
need to be like, they need to be, yeah, somewhere between just like, I'm just taking 5 grams of mushrooms and like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But like, but Survivor style, you guys get what I mean.
yeah. So then, um, Deshaun tries to, like essentially be like, oh, I don't know why. What is it? Shan called me a snake, and Deshaun tries to say like it was, he again tries to throw Ricard under the bus as it was Ricard's plan to get out Shan. Jeff's like, do you know what he's talking about, Ricard? And he's like, yeah. And Ricard explains it. Um, and Deshaun starts to break down. This is where it gets a little heavy because he tries to say, yeah, I wanted to do this for the culture, like they said, but
Yeah,
and this is something I'm going to get to in a second here, but I feel like, and so he just stresses how hard it was to vote out Shan because he did want to go to the end and do it for the culture with her, right? So he
yeah,
starts to break down because he just like the duality, he's at odds with himself as far as doing it for the culture and trying to win $1 million, and
yeah.
those two ideas are just not agreeing with each other, and it feels like you saw it affecting Shan, you saw it affecting Liana, this episode you saw it affecting Deshaun.
There were a lot of pans over to Shan,
Shan, yeah,
and like,
yeah.
yeah, there were a lot of like, yeah.
Well, they're not going to cut to Evie when they're talking about this kind of stuff.
Uh they did actually, like once or
Well, yeah,
twice.
yeah, like a couple times, yeah. So,
And
yeah,
so like we talked about this earlier, and I guess it's time to get into it. But it
yeah.
like
Leona's speech.
um I kind of, okay, so like Deshaun breaks down, and so here's the thing: is it's like, on one hand, uh, and hear me out, but I think this might be a good way to talk about it. On one hand, we're talking about frickin' Survivor. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking a game where, right, a guy faked his grandmother's death, right?
Yep.
To gain favor, to try and manipulate people, to try and win $1 million. So
Yep.
there's that aspect of it. But also, like, on the other hand, like we talked about earlier in our podcast, like today, like tonight, wherever you're listening from, um, that there's some very real stuff going on in the world, and it can't not be addressed. And I I don't know. I don't know how to read Deshaun's reaction here, because I feel like, I don't know. I don't know if it's one or the other, or a mix of the both.
Right.
And yeah, I do get the vibe sometimes, like they've tried very hard to make every group right, because I mean, obviously, like Evie sort of seems to represent the LGBTQ plus community, right?
Hmm.
And I feel like they've tried to sort of incorporate everything, and it just kind of is what it is. I don't know. What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, yeah, like on one hand, Survivor's a silly show, um, where
Mm.
people eat all the sugar and it's kind of weird, but Liana makes a great point that it is a bit of a microcosm of just society in the real world. So
Hmm.
when you do try and make, a cast this diverse, this is like I don't think there's ever been like an alliance like this or that kind of like I can't remember the last time a conversation like this happened at Final Tribal or like
Well,
happened at Tribal where they really kind of dove into like racism. Like Liana says stuff like, "Wherever I go, I'm a black woman first," and she's like, "Yeah, no one knows about that. I'm a student. No one knows that you know I'm a black woman first. People, that's just what they see first. It's and and it is interesting because like on one hand, I'm pretty much going to give you Xander's answer where he's like, "Yeah, I have no idea what that's like. I I have had the privilege of being white, so I have no idea, but I am like wanting to understand, like like I do want to hear those stories and I agree, but at the same time, it's like I don't know what giving birth feels like. I can only imagine. So I'm kind of in that boat. I'm glad they discussed it. I learned some things, but I do kind of I don't know. It needed to be talked about, essentially. But now I will say this on the survivor side of it, I feel like this has happened to every four-person alliance like ever. They do
how
eventually
so?
have to turn on each other, whether it's young people, old
Yeah,
people, men, women. They've
yeah.
always eventually had to have this conversation of is it us to the final three, or do you start looking around the room and be like, ooh, Drew might be able to get some votes, right? Like, so there's been
Like
plenty of
honestly,
ties to bond people together. And I feel like they can be broken. Survivor can make you break those bonds because of the $1 million.
honestly, I feel like this season, uh, and maybe this is going to sound dorky, but I feel like this season having people of color be an alliance took it from old school Warcraft, where it was like Horde versus Alliance, and made it StarCraft, where it was like Terrans, Protoss, Zerg. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And I feel
It's a
like
layer
it,
that's never really been there before.
and I feel like it really gave it depth, and I think it adds like a difficulty level to the game that's really entertaining because it's really easy for people to split between men and women, right? It's so basic, and and this now it kind of adds like another layer to the game. I'd be really interested to see what the cast for next year is like. I
Mm.
think I think next year, I don't know, maybe there'll be like four kind of
Well,
factions, or maybe
yeah.
they'll kind of put people together where they're just like, okay, I think these three people are gonna bet. I think those three, you know what I mean? Um, I don't like it being like I guess I just I hate what seems to me to be like the arbitrary or easy vote. You know, I want
Right.
it to be complex. I want it to be about personalities and how the person played the game, not because you know what their genitals or the color of their skin are like. You know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
like adding the diversity is to me is rad.
It's yeah, it's one of those things that I didn't expect that layer to be added. Like I heard them being more diverse and more POCs, but I just yeah, I'm surprised that this was the result of just making it more diverse. I wouldn't have thought that. I thought it was just going to be not necessarily the same old thing, but I thought Survivor was going to make I thought there would still be girl and boy alliances, young versus old. I just thought Survivor just sort of breaks things down, but with this diverse, it seems like yeah, they've added a layer where I just thought Survivor would boil it down, but I'm impressed this season.
I
Danny
mean,
even makes a real good point where he's like, because everyone gets a chance to speak. Xander says he can't understand. Heather is surprised that Liana was even feeling this way, or Deshaun was feeling this duality. Heather had no idea, and yeah, Forgot my train of thought there.
I have to be honest. Just Danny talking about his dad and that
Yeah.
the idea of like letting go of being angry
Mm.
to me was pretty big. Just like it's interesting. Like the game brings out a lot of really like real stuff. Like there's a
Strips
lot
away
of
all the
people.
superficial stuff. Yeah.
Well, but you hear a lot of people say like after they play the game, like I'm a different person. I'm a better person. I learned stuff about myself. It's almost like I did a fast with a roommate once upon a time, and we had a bunch of buddies that were into it. And you basically don't eat for a while; you just drink juice. It's called a master cleanse, and there was always it's a 14-day cleanse, and there was always this kind of joke around the people I knew that had done it, where you get very zen, around day 7, and I feel like there's something about your metabolism that something that happens like I did experience it. Like you get quiet, you get reflective, you get, you know what I mean? And I think there's something about, almost like hot ones, right? Where, right?
You come out the other side a different person. Yeah.
Dude, when the bomb gets in your mouth, right? And it's like all bad, but, so they're creating something where people are kind of raw and real. And, I don't know.
No, very, very well said. So then essentially, I mean, I do like what Liana says at the very end. She's like, I know people at home might think this is like boring stuff to talk about and it's not Survivor, but she's like, we kind of just had to talk about it. So I'm sorry if you didn't like it, but next week we'll be back to our Survivor ways. Don't worry about that. And so I was like, that it made sense to me. I wasn't upset about it. I wasn't like get to the vote. I was like, no, this had to be done. It had to be said.
Well, honestly, I was like, I was into it. I was like, apology not needed. Like,
No.
And I'm glad that they like, yeah.
Okay, so
I'm
now
glad that people are talking about it.
now, do or die time. So I don't know,
as
Liana.
Mr. Burns. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So Xander notices this on like while Deshaun's playing. It's essentially the Monty Hall problem. It's like let's make a deal. Do you want what's behind curtain 1, 2, or 3? You pick a curtain. So your odds are 33%. And then if I'm like, what if I show you one of the other curtains? Will you change your original vote? And
Yes.
it's a trick. People are normally going like, ooh, maybe I should change it. But technically, what the guy just did is give you 66% odds of being right. So the logical decision would be to stay with what you picked, but you're tempted to not. And that's the idea.
The look on everybody's faces.
Oh man.
Oh my
Everyone was on the edge of their seat for that. Yeah. So Deshaun picks a box. Jeff opens another box and goes, Deshaun, do you want to change your box now? Deshaun says no, and he's safe. Oh,
look on Xander's face.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like
that's why I'm like, how could anybody even suggest that this episode was a little bit it wasn't that good? It was amazing. Come on.
So now
are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? Yeah, exactly. So with Deshaun being safe, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of hoping for him to not be safe, but so they go to a vote. I mean,
yeah, they sure
Did you notice Xander used his extra vote?
Oh, dang.
You can tell because when Jeff goes to open it up, he has to like unfold it like 4 times instead of just a simple like folded once.
Oh, what?
Because the extra vote is folded up in a secret that you hide on you and put in your backpack. But the parchment you get when you go to vote is already laid out flat for you. So whenever you see a piece of parchment with more folds, it's an extra vote.
Okay, wait. Because it's extra folds. Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
it's the advantage piece of parchment that's actually folded more times, not the vote itself.
exactly. Yeah.
Ah, I did not notice because I'm a
No.
noob.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Jeff pulled it out at the very end. Now he didn't have to use it, right? It was what? Let me double check here. It was 5-3. So Xander didn't need to waste his extra vote. He just wasn't sure if he could trust like Erica, Heather, and Ricard to back him up. So he
See,
said, "I'm gonna make sure this happens." But if he just had
I
trust,
mean,
he could still have an extra vote.
I guess it makes sense and it doesn't make sense because, like, let's be real. He's the only like white dude. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm honestly
Heather's still
kind of
there. Come on
surprised.
now, Heather's still there.
Yeah, but do you know what I
I know,
mean?
I
Like,
know.
right?
We're gonna blow by that. Yeah, Heather.
White colonialists are horrible fucking human beings, and that's where we come from. And like, I'm honestly kind of surprised, just like how they're both still there. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And there was a, even though I felt like Heather and Xander were genuine and heartfelt, there was a measure of it where I'm watching that tribal and I was like, I get it, but I don't know if it's enough. And kind of like Bo Burnham style, like
mm-hmm.
we've had the sage for a long time. Should we even have the right to say anything? Do you know what I mean? Maybe all we need to do is close our mouths and just not be complicit. You know what I mean? But I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. Like, I like, if you were talking like men versus women, and there was like one woman around, like, would she not get picked off? Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Right. So I'm kind of surprised Xander hasn't got picked off, and
I
Heather.
know.
I mean, Xander's a player. I'm sorry, Heather, you're super sweet, but she's obviously the goat of the season, right?
Yeah.
But still, I don't know. We'll see.
So yeah, Liana gets voted out. Very sad. She's got nothing but nice words to say in her final words, though. She's like, "I'm really happy to be part of that tribal. This is going to be a really important season." And then she goes, "I'm ready to eat." I like that like
Dude,
final thing she
I
said. I loved it. Like,
um
I bet you are. Yeah.
the sportsmanship and the grace on her part, I thought
Yeah.
were very admirable. I was like, man,
Yeah.
and then when you see that, you look back to like, I don't know.
The beginning of
It's
last week's
weird.
episode, I hated her, and at the end of this episode, I'm like, oh, that's too bad. Like
Yeah,
I don't know how
right.
Survivor does it.
Well, it's the villain becoming the anti-hero, right? And that was the thing I was thinking about earlier, and that's why I mentioned it, is because they had so many shots of like just her
Camera
frustration
going blurry.
with
Oh well.
what she was going through during the day and playing her game and stuff. And by the end of it, I was like, oh, okay, like you're a legit cool person. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're gonna call this a little short. We kind of talked about this a
Oh.
little quicker than normal, but little
Huh?
peek behind the curtain. We got to do a Fortnite live event, so we gotta go. Um,
Yes. Otherwise,
I
our 9-year-old
will.
nephew will be very angry.
Yeah, I will finish this off by saying, oh my god, the title of next week's episode's amazing.
Oh, what is it?
You ready for it?
What? Yeah, I'm ready.
Truth,
I'm ready.
truth, kamikaze.
I
Truth,
thought you were going to say
kamikaze.
truth or dare. Okay.
No, truth, kamikaze sounds better. Like, I feel like stuff is going to be revealed and it's not going to go well. That's my only. I don't know why, but I like that title of an episode. I think it's better than Do or Die. My favorite is Baby with a Machine Gun so far. That's my favorite.
I like Betrayed.
Oh, Betrayer. That was a good one. Good point. Yeah. Betrayer's up there. Yeah.
Also, just before we go, the looks on the jury's faces this episode. Yeah. I think this episode was so good.
There was a lot of side eye. A lot of side eye. A lot of
not so many looks from Tiff, but lots of stuff from Shan. A little bit of I recognized Nasir. Tiff's kind of, which I'm surprised about. She seems to be kind of blending into the background. I'm really interested to see what Tiff says. Oh man, I'm
I cannot
interested,
wait for her final tribal. Cannot
dude.
wait.
I don't think I've ever
I
been
actually can't
more
wait for
invested.
Liana now. Liana might have a good little speech too.
Oh, she sure will. They all
Yeah.
will. I don't think I've ever been more invested in a season.
I don't know. I'm not super excited to hear what Nasir has to say.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, that's fair. I mean,
Yeah, okay.
nice guy, but
oh, great guy. He was one of my favorites in the first couple episodes. Yeah.
Honey P, but didn't really get into it too much with anybody. There's nothing really there. It feels like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Okay, updated. Who's your
Okay.
final three now?
Xander, Heather, Erica.
Wow. Okay, same.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. No, literally same.
The only thing I would change, maybe if I was to not go with my heart, Ricard instead of Xander. I don't think both of them are making it to the same final three. Other than that, everything is kind of up in the air in my eyes. But I don't think Xander and Ricard are sitting beside each other at Final Tribal.
What about Xander, Danny, Heather?
Or I'd like Danny, that. I'd Xander, like Heather. That. That'd be a feel good final three.
Right?
I'd like to see Erica there instead of Heather. I don't know. Erica's from Canada. Go Erica.
Well, yeah, go Canadians, but also okay. Yeah, okay. I can side with that. But Danny, right now, at least, what they've shown us, he really seems like he's not making any waves. He's just going along. I mean,
there's a lot of people that I think can make the final three, but I don't know if they would get votes when they get there is the thing.
Well, that's the thing. And I think, who wouldn't vote for Danny? I mean, unless somebody like Shan calls into question and be like, bro, you didn't make any moves. Where's your game? What?
Has Danny told anyone that he's like a football player and doesn't necessarily need the million? Like, like Danny doesn't necessarily need the million. Like,
no, but that's, really, let's be real. They're there for the million, and they're also there just to be
the title of Soul Survivor. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see how this goes. I mean, we only got 3 more episodes left, and that includes the finale. So
okay, hold on. Break this down for me because I'm a noob. So there's 3 more. When are the families coming? Do we even know? Are they going to even happen?
I don't know. My guess is no, unless they do a Zoom call thing, because the families have to be quarantined. So their loved ones would have had to leave for Fiji like a week after the castaways went or the survivors went, and they had to be held up near Ponderosa for 2 weeks just to be quarantined for an episode. Like, I'm not sure if CBS would spring for that. They'd probably just do a Zoom call.
Well,
or maybe there's no loved ones episode this season. Who knows?
Welcome to the apocalypse, everybody. All right.
Yeah. And sorry for the last 10 minutes of blurry camera. I didn't want to try and fix it on camera. I just decided to go with it. So sorry about that, guys.
It's all good.
Then, yeah, we'll see you next week for Truth Kamikaze.
Truth Kamikaze. Thanks for hanging out. Come back again.
Yeah. Like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out. Peace out.